Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Runaways, Marvel's Runaways. This is a series that ran for 3 seasons on Hulu, which Disney at the time had a pretty big stake in, and now has even more of a stake in. But yeah, this is one of those kind of Marvel TV things, kind of like the Netflix deal that existed outside the proper MCU under Kevin Feige and all the films and things like that before they started doing things on Disney Plus. So, is this part of the proper MCU? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, officially, no. But could it be? It's not like the characters make any mentions that I can recall of Captain America or Iron Man or anything else. This takes place in Los Angeles, so you'd figure that if Iron Man was a thing, Tony Stark, they'd be like, oh yeah, Stark up in Malibu. They'd talk about they drop a reference maybe. But unlike the Netflix shows, which make references to the incident, which is from the alien invasion from the Avengers movie, this has no connection whatsoever, other than the fact that it was a Marvel comic, and it still is. But the original series that came out, gosh, I don't know how long ago, but it's a good long while ago, by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples? Shit. I'm sorry. I forgot the artist's name, but Brian K. Vaughan is one of the co-creators of these characters who it sets out the premise of what if your parents were actually supervillains. I mean, kids all the time don't get along with their parents. They think they're evil and they're just mean and they just trying to ruin their lives. What if that was really the case? Well, sort of. That's the basic premise behind the comic. The show, however, is similar. The setup is almost identical. Certain details are obviously left out for reasons. One of which, okay. Let me go through this. Gert, Alex, Carolina, 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 Chase, Nico, and Molly. The main thing is, I mean, I love the book. I was really looking forward to the series. It's very great in many ways. It's not as good as it could be in other ways. Brian K. Vaughan is, I think, an executive producer or something on this. He had some say and weigh in, but obviously, translation to television, when there's a situation where you don't know whether it's going to get another season or not, where it's not a sure thing, like they make an Iron Man movie in 2008, and they make it because, hey, it's one shot. If it fails, we just don't make any more. If it does great, well, hey, now we have money to make tons more. When you're a TV series, on it all depends on if people are watching it or not. And if it fails, well, guess what? Do you write toward finishing out the whole story you want to tell in one season, or do you leave things hanging for a second or third season? It's it's that precarious balance that the writers and creators are put in. And I think if this show knew that it was going to go for so many episodes, so many seasons, like the Lost negotiation, where they just said, hey, you know what? We're doing really great now. Let's say we're going to end this after so many seasons. That would be great. But I think there's a lot of twists and turns that were made to pad out this story rather than, yes, certain things get wrapped up at the beginning of season one, but you kind of go, is that it? And thankfully, we found out, hey, yeah, we're going to get to season two and even season three, which is great. But again, you kind of get left in that writer limbo where it's, what do you write toward? And that's where some of the failings of the show become evident. The cracks show through. The characters are great. The kids, I'm a little bit harsher on kids when it comes to acting. Only because there's a lot of kids out there trying to get these roles, and They should be. If you're gonna, I mean, you can't really push kids to be on the level of their adult counterparts. And there's a rare instance when you find a kid that is just knocks it out of the park. These kids are really good, but I think some of the situations they're put in makes some of their choices kind of awkward. It gets soapy real fast. Whereas in the comic, certain things happen that the runaway part comes real fast because of what these kids find out. The runaway aspect of this series doesn't even come into play until the end of the first season. That's my biggest story arc kind of spoiler. I do have to tell you what this is about to a certain degree to give you an idea. I think it's worthwhile checking out. I think it's a fun ride. It is not the best Marvel thing out there, but it is certainly not the worst. By the way, season 3, I do want to tell you, if you like Cloak and Dagger, which was on Freeform, Cloak and Dagger make a 1 or 2 episode appearance, just a minor cameo kind of crossover thing. And I have not watched Cloak and Dagger yet. That's surprisingly, I don't think it's on Disney Plus yet. I don't know. I'll have to check. You'd think it would be by now. If not, it will be soon, I'm sure. Unless they decide to reboot the whole concept in the MCU proper. Who knows? Anyway, this is about these kids who are the children of either fairly wealthy or influential or super intelligent parents who are all part of a thing called the Pride. The Pride is a secretive group that we don't even know. You'll learn more about it as we go along. But the Pride basically brings together the parents of these kids for a regular meeting where something goes down that the kids wish they hadn't seen. And it leaves a lot of questions. It's the kind of thing where you go, are my parents supervillains? Or in a world where there aren't really superheroes or supervillains, are our parents evil? Did we just witness something that is truly heinous, or did we misunderstand it? The first episode shows everything from their point of view, from the kids' point of view, as to their day leading up to all this. And they're old friends. They grew up together because their parents knew each other because of the Pride. But they've grown apart over the years, especially after losing one of their members. Nico's sister died suddenly the previous year, and it really rocked everybody. They all loved her, and it became a mess. So it takes a lot to get them somehow in the same room together, but that happens, and that's when they discover things they shouldn't have. The second episode shows it from the parents' point of view, and you see everything that built up to that moment, to that crazy moment when those stories collide. And you're dealing with parents who, one's a super scientist, others are geneticists, one runs a Scientology-like cult, religion. There's who else? Oh, others are just powerful members of the community. They're influential in politics and other things like that. So they all bring something to the table that is pretty major. And why are they connected this way? What brings them together, and why would they do this horrible thing that we discover toward the end of the episode? Well, that's all part of the mystery of the Runaways, and we get to see all sorts of. They go on all sorts of different adventures here and there. For me, it was interesting to watch this all take place in Los Angeles because I recognize the spots where everything is taking place, and it's kind of neat. But for the most part, it's a curiosity for me, for a person who loves the comics. For some people who have no horse in the race, who have no expectations of the comic, you might enjoy this even more than I did. So I say give it a shot. The Runaways, they deal with all sorts of different topics and struggles, personally, professionally. The kids dealing with schools, kids dealing with bullying, drugs, and a dinosaur. Yeah, there's a dinosaur. There he is. There he is. There's a dinosaur. That's old lace. How does a dinosaur figure into all this? Well, you'll have to watch to find out. To me, that was one of the biggest challenges when I heard that they were making this. How are they going to handle old lace? I mean, they had a lot of obstacles. One of which was young Molly here. Molly is basically 13 in this. In the comic, she's like 8. So she's much younger than the rest of them. But she has super strength. And where does she get those superpowers? Well, we have to watch a show. But in the comic, she's a mutant. However, there's no such thing as mutants in this reality. There's no X-Men. So how does Molly become who she is? Well, that's a mystery to be solved. In the comics, let's just say, yeah, there's people who are involved in the occult, aliens, time travelers, mutants, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. It's a great sort of convergence of all the archetypes in the Marvel universe, and yeah, I highly recommend the comic. For a time, for better or worse, Joss Whedon wrote the series because he was a huge fan of Brian K. Vaughan and his work, especially Why the Last Man, which is a series that's coming up also, not on Disney Plus. Oh boy, that would not fit well on Disney Plus. But Why the Last Man is another thing by Brian K. Vaughan. Joss Whedon wrote, like I said, a bit of Runaways for a while after Brian jumped off of it, and I think Brian wrote Buffy? No. I don't know. I can't remember what he wrote. They kind of switched places for a bit in comics, anyway. And yeah, it's a very interesting pedigree. I hope these characters kind of get revisited again at some point, but I think this is for people who've been waiting for Runaways series. This hits all the marks. It hits. The characters are dead on 1-to-1, except for Molly again. Like I said, she's aged up and she's not a mutant. And you'll get to see how each of them use their abilities and figure out where it all comes from as the series goes on. It's like I said, it's a much more soapy than the comic, but it's still good fun. Got some superhero adventure in it, but it's not as much as you would get from a comic. So yeah. I could say that 5 more times. Yeah. I only watched the first 2 episodes. I've seen the series already completely, so I just wanted to refresh myself with it to give a perspective for you. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
324.
324. Wow, went down 5. 324. Well, we're still, by the way, everything here in the 3 2s all starts with the word Marvel. So 324 is a series called, well, I watched these, Marvel Studios Legends. So this is a series of shorts that kind of give us a refresher on each of the characters that are coming up in the various series on Disney Plus. So WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, eventually Loki. So maybe we'll have to see if there's a new Loki one up yet. You never know. We'll find out. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be watching. The series Marvel. Say it again. Come on. Just Marvel Studios Legends on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow.